Here's your host, Alex Garrett.
Ladies and gentlemen, you could have been anywhere in the world tonight, but you're here with us in New York City. Are you ready?
I know I am. Hey, I'm Alex Garrett, your host for this episode and everything Alex Garrett Podcasting. And this podcast specifically focuses on topics that should be trending. And, well, you know what they say, right?
Oh, if the shoe fits, wear it.
Well, that line means so much to me. Find out why next on Alex Garrett Podcasting, where we wear that shoe proudly. To the point where, I'm Alex Garrett, by the way. Thanks for tuning in today on Alex Garrett Podcasting. To the point where I literally got through one of the most severe thunderstorms, rainstorms, lightning that I've ever experienced. And that's kind of where I want to start today. Obviously, last night it was quite a night at the White House.
So tonight I ask you a simple question. How can the Democrat Party ask to lead our country when it spends so much time tearing down our country?
So many effective messages last night from President Trump. But before all that, and I got to see all that, I really felt that, and I have to talk about this because it was a bit rattling. Because see, thankfully, thank God, I've been avoiding major rainstorms like we see in the South. I've been avoiding being in those kind of conditions, hurricane-like conditions, if you will, for most of my life. Yet somehow, last night, for one of the first times ever, I rollerbladed in a massive thunder and rainstorm. Boot of my skate got soaked. I really hope it's okay today. Amazingly, my phone didn't fall out of my pocket in the puddles. I mean, this was a moment where, and they talk about God putting people through figurative storms and now literal storm for me. And I just wondered if that was a precursor to just something bigger where, yeah, that bubble that I've been so blessed to be in, talking about bubbles, right? We've been talking about the NHL bubble, NBA bubble, MLB not having a bubble. Now the Mets can't get a way to protest right, and they argue with each other, and they have Brody throwing him under the bus, who called Manfred, someone who doesn't get it, Rob Manfred. Oh, what a drama that is. I can't even get into the whole thing. Mets took the field, did 42 seconds of silence, then went off the field, which was incredible because just seconds later, it poured. It thunderstormed, it lightninged, and about a mile away, yours truly was trying to just roll home in it. And yeah, I really wanted to know, and I'm thinking, is that God's way of preparing me to have that lifted more than ever? Sometimes when I do rollerblade, it does feel invincible. I do feel like nothing can stop me. And I never thought that I would be in this situation of a thunderstorm where the rain was pounding down. Like I don't know. I guess my ego, or whatever you want to say, never felt like it was meant to be in a thunder rainstorm like that. You come home, clothes are all soaked out. I never thought I was meant to be in that situation. And because I was never in that situation, a lot of thoughts ran through me. Firstly was, don't fall in this rain. Number two would be simply, well, not simply, but number two, I really did start thinking, like, why is this happening right now? Why am I someone who's been blessed not to be in hazardous conditions? Let's face it, I really haven't been in those conditions. Then again, New York hasn't really been either. I mean, Hurricane Sandy was horrible, but inland it wasn't like what it was last night, which I believe was remnants of Laura. I mean, it pounded us. Somehow, the rain stopped in Washington, didn't even go there. That was amazing to me. But no, in a stretch of Queens blocks, flooding and more flooding and more flooding. So I really started to evaluate, like, how was it that I should be caught in this storm? What's the meaning of it? Why is it happening? And then I was just grateful to be home after all of that. But yeah, I don't normally get traumatized by things at all. But this one felt a bit different here at Alex Garrett Podcasting. Alex, Garrett. Podcasting is who we are, who I am anyway. And thanks for tuning this channel. Each and every day something gets published or dropped, as the slang goes, right? Drop. Alex G in NYC is my Twitter as well. It also felt like a foreshadow, right? So why is the bubble being lifted now? Why all of a sudden was I meant to be in that storm and roll through it knowing God was by me every roll of the way? Well, I think it is because it's a future preparation for things where your foundations, the foundations who have had me in my life who've been in my life for years since birth, slowly start to fade. I don't know. That's the only thing I could think of. And I think I was meant to be rollerblading in that storm for one big reason only. To say, all right, I could do this. I may not be usually used to a situation like that, but you know what? If I can adapt to that, if I can literally roll home in puddles of pouring rain like you'd see on TV, like, that's the other thing. You see these kind of storms on television. You don't see them in your front yard or your local bus stop. Here in New York, anyway, that never really happens to that extent. I mean, it was whipping wind. It was flying rain, really, all over the place. And none of us usually are acclimated to that. Yet to be the only person up and in that storm was also very weird. No one was out. The bus, it gets up the hill from Parsons and Hillside, right outside my home in Queens. Then just nobody. Nobody moved. Nobody was around. And I had this determination to get home. I said, I'm not going to let this thing slow down first. So I took a chance, and I won that chance. Now, the other thing about this was I checked my email, and I should have known, because it's 6 o'clock, WCBS 880 was warning that this could happen. So it wasn't like it wasn't predictable. But the force of it, man, was something, I hate to say it, I started to play back in my mind over and over and over again. But having survived it, all I'm going to say is you can survive your storms too, no matter what they might be. Because we're clearly meant to be put through storms. We're clearly meant to be shaken, to be challenged, to be changed for the better. We are clearly meant to be given survival mode instincts at the right time. And for me, last night was the first time in the rain that I really felt truly challenged and blessed at the same time that God got me through that challenge. And there might be many more on the way, maybe not in the form of a pouring rainstorm, definitely other things. And you know what? After last night, I think I'm ready. But the other thing about this was I was laughing it off. Oh, this is funny. Why I'm in this. Then you play it back in your mind. And as I was rolling in it, it wasn't so funny. It was more daunting than one could realize. And I guess that's why. And look, I've rolled in the rain before. But this was something I never ever seen, like ever been in, firstly. First time I ever was exposed to the elements in a way that I didn't know would take me aback, A-B-A-C-K, if you will. But it really, truly did. By the way, I'm noticing the date, August 28th. Our dear Michelle Mohan, talk about a girl that overcame challenges and the elements and mitochondrial disease for 21 years. That was her. She is no longer with us, but I do always on August 28th feel the need to say, we miss you, we love you, Michelle. And I really did love her, and I hope she's okay. I hope God's got her soul in his hands as always, today and every day. But thinking of Donna Mohan, Paul Mohan, and her brother Paul Mohan Jr. today. Hard to believe 2013, I believe she passed. And she was one that overcame the elements of everything. She had this bright smile, very beautiful. And she never let anything stop her. And that was amazing. Around this time, she'd actually do a fundraiser in the Bronx, which we went to a couple times, now that I think of it, for the Mitochondrial Disease Foundation. I mean, she was out in the community, and she did amazing work. And she never showed if she was shaken or not. But at times where she was, she just bounced right back. And that was special to see, day in and day out, as her classmate at that Scar School. See, we all have our elements and our bubbles that we are used to. The no elements of the weather factor, the thank God I have a home factor. But I think last night I just was taught we're all meant to be rattled and meant to be in a storm of one or another. It's how you come through it and how you're able to tell a tale that makes you even stronger than the night before. And then that leads me into this other point. So if you caught my last podcast, I had mentioned that the leaders of New York, Mayor de Blasio, Governor Cuomo, promised us a rewarding of a healthcare parade, a beautiful, upbeat parade for our healthcare workers on the streets of New York in the Canyons of Heroes. And literally, what were we honored with? Stores being broken into, having to be boarded up, looting, rioting, defacing of federal property here in New York City. But that was only the leadership's quote-unquote reward. I think anybody who can tell their story of COVID-19 survival, pandemic survival, that is God's reward. To be able to come through all of that, to be able to see a city now that has less than 500 hospitalizations a day, I mean, it's amazing. And we should be thankful that we should be grateful that we were able to overcome it. So let's not mistake what the non-rewards, but the actions of leadership and God. They are not the same. No matter the challenges we're seeing on our streets, on our TV screens, anywhere, Kenosha, elsewhere, I think it goes back to one big thing. That is God giving you the opportunity to see all of what's unfolding, learning from it, saying how we can do better, being an American and debating it so we can get it right. Now, it's true for 180,000 people who lost their lives. They're not here to add to the conversation, and they must be mourned. But for those of you who are waking up today and listening to this, let's work together. Let's go back to what the foundations are, which is simply a passion for this country, whether we are Republican, Democrat, Independent, or you know what? Why don't we also start a free-thinking party? Because a free-thinking party is what we saw the last 2 weeks, okay? And I would throw John Kasich. I would throw Vernon Jones from Georgia. I would throw anybody who crossed party lines to side with the other candidate, a free thinker. And those people, that's a party that could shape the world and shake the world. Because if you get the free thinkers out of these parties and into a group all of themselves, and then you literally have the free thinkers, and I have to say it, I do believe the ultimate free thinker is in the White House. He doesn't listen to either side. Now, that could be a problem at times, but he just doesn't at the White House. He marches to the Trump party. And I think that's why people have elected him in 2016. I think that's why he's going to probably win, but we'll have to see. Re-election in 2020. I think that's why, though. Because he's a free thinker. Just like many. I even think you throw Jeff Flake, you throw Mitt Romney. I mean, these guys, you could say, well, they're doing it for politics. But you know what? At the end of the day, I think they're doing it because they're free thinkers. Because they aren't afraid to be unbound by their party. And that is good to see. Because I've said it before, sorry. I've said it before. This country wasn't founded on everybody going on a party line. This country was founded on people debating, being that free thinker, on how to get this right. And every day in America that sun shines, we are waking up to get it right, to get it right every day. So let's start a free thinking party. Because even independents are a little mixed up. So what about free thinkers? What about giving them a platform totally exclusively for them? From either party. And I would add from any walk of life. That would be a huge tent. And it'd be a tent that actually could solve. Because when you have valid disagreement with leadership, when you have valid agreement with leadership, put the two together, you've got a passionate group right there that can combine. Not say they're a Republican or a Democrat, but say, yes, I am a free thinker. Now, don't ask me how this went from a storm podcast about a rainstorm to free thinking, but that's how it flows. And yeah, I really do believe there should be a free thinking party. And that, as I said, that tent would have so many different ideas. That tent would be so big, it would outshine a lot of the establishment parties that we have. It really would, wouldn't it? I think so. So kudos to the last 2 weeks of people that did cross party lines because they didn't feel aligned and taking that stand of free thinking for themselves. You might make fun of John Kasich, but you know what? And you might even make fun of AOC for seconding a nomination, and that was traditional of Bernie Sanders. But she too is a free thinker, right? I mean, she really doesn't abide by the normal democratic means. She's really much more thinking in a different direction. I don't like calling them radical left, radical right. She just has a sense as a millennial beyond what Washington's offering people. I would say she is a free thinker. Maybe not agreeing with her, but she's a free thinker. And we got to give her that credit. And as Laura swept through, heavy reminder that, yeah, we are vulnerable. Politicians are vulnerable to lose. People that had to board up their homes and leave Louisiana, they were vulnerable. And so when will they make vulnerability a 2020 discussion? We know you're human should be the message. And we will work for your humanity to survive. I don't know if moving through that rainstorm last night with nothing happening and just being a bit freaked out by it because of the massiveness and the idea that I never usually am swept up in that. But I'm going to use that and write about it and grow thoughts on it. Because I don't think you get that even though I've had multiple surgeries, multiple things where I get food taken out. I never ever, before last night, rollerbladed in such horrific weather. Never rollerbladed in the elements. And now, I feel tougher than I did yesterday. Because I realize I have vulnerability too. I can be caught up in the elements. I can rollerblade through hazardous conditions. And if I realize it, it's time to talk about it. So I'll keep you in the loop about that. alex.garrett21@yahoo.com. alex.garrett21@yahoo.com. Think of God's rewards. Email me if you have a story of the elements that you've been in, literal or figuratively, and have managed to be yourself through. Have a great night. Have a great Friday. We'll talk to you soon on Alex Garrett Podcasting.